Hey guys, I'm Cassie O'Brien, and welcome to Under My Bookshelf. Today we're going to be talking about the world of fantasy books. Now, fantasy is a genre of speculative fiction, which is an umbrella term for encompassing narrative fiction with supernatural elements and futuristic elements. Fantasy fiction can oftentimes take place in a fictional universe and oftentimes not have that much referencing or relevance to real natural world that we live in today. Most fantasy fiction can use elements of magic or other supernatural things or creatures as a main plot element, theme, or setting. One fantasy author, Michael Scott, is quoted, "Imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited to all that we know and understand, while imagination embraces the entire world and all there will ever be known or to understand." I agree with Mr. Scott, and I believe that imagination is a crucial element needed to enjoy the next 5 titles that I'm going to be reading the descriptions of today. So, let's get started. Fantasy. Have you ever thought about the world around you, and if there may be other worlds included in the world around you? Have you ever passed someone on the street and wondered, is reality all it really seems to be? Well, as we immerse ourselves into the next 5 books, we dive into the secret world that protects normal reality from the hidden and harmful dangers around us. In the first book that we're going to be talking about, it comes from the Mortal Instrument series, and it is a 6-series young adult fantasy novel written by Cassandra Clare. The one that we're going to be talking about is the last of the series. So this series, the Shadowhunter series, also called the Mortal Instrument series, is about the character Clary Frey, who interacts with a group of Shadowhunters. While she's interacting with these Shadowhunters, she discovers her own heritage. She discovers that she is indeed a Shadowhunter. Now, what is a Shadowhunter? A Shadowhunter is a half angel, half human who can see the supernatural and mystical world within the normal realm of reality. So Shadowhunters fight against the dark things such as fairies or vampires or any other mystical creature that pops in and wants to harm the normal mundane world. So in the 5th book of the series, it is described as this. So this is City of Heavenly Fire by Cassandra Clare. It is described as, in this dazzling and long-awaited conclusion to the acclaimed Mortal Instrument series, the last book, Clary and her friends fight the greatest evil they have ever faced, Clary's own brother. Sebastian Morgenstern is on the move, systematically turning Shadowhunter against Shadowhunter. Bearing the Infernal Cup, he transforms Shadowhunters into creatures out of a nightmare. He tears families and lovers apart as the ranks of his darkened army swells. The embattlement Shadowhunters withdraw from Aldris, so the Shadowhunters run. But not even the famed demon towers of Alicante can keep Sebastian at bay. And with the Nephilim, or the Shadowhunters, trapped in Aldris, who will guard the world from all the demons and all the evil that the mundane people cannot see? When the greatest betrayals of Shadowhunters have ever been known is revealed, Clary, Jace, Isabel, Simon, and Alec, all characters from the previous books, they flee. Even if their journey takes them deep into the demon realms where no Shadowhunter has ever set foot before, and from which no human being has ever returned. Love will be sacrificed, and lives will be lost in the terrible battle of fate for the world, in this thrilling final feature in the installment of the classic urban fantasy world of the Mortal Instruments. Now, the second title that we're going to be describing today is also a book under Cassandra Clare. However, it happens after the Mortal Instrument series, and it starts the Shadowhunter novels. This book goes into the dark artifacts of Shadowhunters, and it's called Lady Midnight. Now, Lady Midnight. In a kingdom by the sea, in a secret world where half-angel warriors, Shadowhunters, are sworn to fight demons, Parabati is a sacred word. A Parabatai is your partner in battle. A Parabatai is your best friend. A Parabatai can be anything to you except the love of your life. Emma Carstens is a warrior, a shadow hunter, and the best of her generation. She lives for battle. Shoulder to shoulder with her Parabati, Julian Blackthorn, she patrols the street of Los Angeles, where vampire parties on the Sunset Strip and fairies, the most powerful of the supernatural creatures, teeter on the edge of open war with shadow hunters. When the bodies of humans and fairies turn up murdered in the same way that Emma's parents were when she was a child, an uneasy alliance is formed. This is Emma's chance for revenge, and Julian's chance to get back his brother, Mark, who is being held prisoner by the fairy courts. All Emma, Mark, and Julian have to do is solve the murders within 2 weeks, and before the murderer targets them. Their search takes Emma from sea caves full of sorcery to a dark lottery where death is dispensed. And with each clue she unravels, she finds more secrets. What has Julian been hiding from her all of these years? Why does he want to find this? Why does shadow hunting law forbid Parabati from falling in love? Who really killed Emma's parents, and can she handle the truth? This is a darkly magical world of shadow hunters, and it captures the imaginations of all the readers across the globe. And this is a long-awaited book by many, many people. So the third book is by a different author, and her name is Melissa Albert, and we're going to be reading the description of the Hazel Wood. Now, the Hazel Wood. So, 17-year-old Alice Proserpine and her mother have spent most of Alice's life on the road, always a step of the uncanny bad luck biting at their heels. But when Alice's grandmother, a reclusive author of dark and scary fairy tales, dies alone on her estate, the Hazelwood, Alice learns how bad her luck can really get. Her mother is stolen away by a figure who claims to come from the cruel supernatural world where her grandmother's stories are seen to be set. Alice's only lead is the message on her mother left behind: stay away from the Hazelwood. Alice has long steered clear of her grandmother's cultish fans. She hates them, but now she has no choice but to ally with her classmate and fairy tale superfan Ellery Finch, who may have his own reasons for wanting to help Alice. To find her mother, Alice must venture to the Hazelwood against her orders, and then into the world where her grandmother's fairy tales began, and where she might discover where her own bad luck comes from. So our fourth book is going to be Queen of the Shadows by Sarah J. Maas. It is the last book in the Throne of Glass series, and the Throne of Glass series follows Selena Sordian, a teenage assassin in a corrupted kingdom with a tyrannical ruler. And as the tale progresses, Selena forms unexpected bonds and uncovers many conspiracies that happen and are going on amidst her adventures. So in the book, everyone that Selena Sordian loves has been taken away from her, but she at last has returned to the Empire for vengeance, of course, to rescue her once glorious kingdom and to restore honor and confront the shadows of her past. She has embraced her identity that she has gained within the previous book, Adeline Galenius, Queen of Terrasen. But before she can reclaim her throne, she must fight for it. She will fight for her cousin, a warrior prepared to die for her. She will fight for her best friend, a young man trapped in an unspeakable prison. And she will fight for her people, who are enslaved to a brutal king and are waiting their long queen's triumphant return. The fourth volume in the New York Times bestselling series continues Selena's epic journey and builds a passionate, antagonizing crescendo that may in fact shatter her world. So the last and final book that we're going to be talking about is another Sarah J. Maas book, and it comes from her second series, which is called A Court of Thorns and Roses, which is actually the first book. So in the first book, A Court of Roses and Thorns, the main character, Faye, survives on her ability to hunt and kill. But while hunting to survive one day, she accidentally kills a fairy and is dragged to the magical kingdom of Fae. Nice. She falls in love with her captor, Tamlin, and is told about the world of Fae. And while there, she fights an ancient wicked curse known as a shadow and saves both Tamlin and the world of Fae. So, in the second book of the series, it continues in the Court of Mist and Fury. Faye has survived the battles of Tamlin's people and has gained the powers of the High Fae. But her heart still remains human, and she cannot forget the terrible deeds that she has performed to save Tamlin's people. In this book, Faye has to navigate the Knight's Court while witnessing its dark web of politics, passion, and dazzling power. However, a greater evil looms, and she might be the key to stopping it. But first, she must learn to harness her new powers, heal her fractured heart, and decide how she wants to shape her future, and the future that is a world that has been cleaved into two. So, those are the 5 books that I have chosen to talk about in this series, and I really hope that you go out and read them because they are all worth reading. If you don't have knowledge of the series, I do suggest that you do read the previous books instead of jumping from book to book. Of course, it's going to make a whole lot more sense, but I will leave you with a quote by C.S. Lewis, and it says, "Someday you will be old enough again to start reading fairy tales." And I just love how that quote is, because when we grow up, we're younger, we read a lot of fairy tales, but then there's this gap that we just seem to ignore and we kind of stray away from fairy tales. But by diving into the world of fantasy, we are able to relive and immerse ourselves in a new world where anything is possible. Thank you guys so much for listening to my talk, and feel free to leave any comments about the video or about any questions, and I hope to see you guys soon. Thank you so much.